Hi everyone, I'm Carl. Welcome back to the Renko Trading channel. Before we start, this content is for educational and experimental purposes only. It is not financial advice. Always do your own research before making any investment decisions. If you've ever opened a Renko chart and wondered why it looks completely different from someone else's chart, you're not alone. Most of the time the difference isn't the strategy. It's the settings. Today I'm going to walk through the 4 Renko settings that have the biggest impact on what you see in TradingView. We'll talk about brick size, ATR versus fixed brick sizing, Wicks, and timeframes. By the end of this video you'll have a practical starting setup that you can test for yourself. Let's get started. One thing I love about Renko charts is that they remove a lot of the noise you see on traditional candlestick charts. The problem is that many traders jump straight into indicators and strategies before they have their chart configured properly. If your settings aren't right, even a good strategy can produce confusing results. Think of it this way. If 2 traders use the exact same indicator but completely different Renko settings, they can end up seeing very different charts and taking very different trades. That's why I always start with the chart itself before I start thinking about entries and exits. If I could only change one Renko setting, it would be brick size. Brick size controls how much price movement is required before a new brick appears. Smaller bricks make the chart react faster. You'll see more reversals. You'll see more signals. You'll also see more noise. Larger bricks do the opposite. The chart becomes smoother. Trends become easier to see. But entries and exits may happen later. Here's the important part. There is no universal perfect brick size. The best brick size depends on what you're trying to accomplish. If you're a short-term trader looking for quick moves, you may prefer smaller bricks. If you're trying to follow longer trends and avoid overtrading, larger bricks often make more sense. The next decision is whether to use ATR-based Renko bricks or fixed-size bricks. This is probably one of the most common questions I receive. ATR stands for Average True Range. Instead of using a fixed brick size, ATR adjusts the brick size automatically as market volatility changes. When volatility increases, the bricks become larger. When volatility decreases, the bricks become smaller. A fixed brick size doesn't do that. A fixed brick stays exactly the same until you manually change it. Personally, I think both approaches have advantages. If I'm developing and backtesting a strategy, I often prefer fixed brick sizes because they are easier to compare over long periods of time. If I'm looking for something that automatically adapts to changing market conditions, ATR can be very useful. The important thing is understanding that neither approach is automatically better. They are simply different ways to calculate Renko brick size, and the best choice depends on what you're trying to accomplish. Now let's talk about Wicks. This setting confuses a lot of traders. When Wicks are enabled, you can see price movement that occurred beyond the completed brick. That gives you additional information about what happened inside the move. When Wicks are disabled, the chart looks cleaner and simpler. Some traders love the extra detail. Others prefer the cleaner look. Personally, I usually tell new Renko traders to start with Wicks turned off. Once you're comfortable with how the chart behaves, then experiment with turning them on and see whether the extra information actually improves your decisions. The key point is that Wicks don't magically make a strategy better. They simply provide additional context. This might surprise some people. Renko charts are price-based, but time frame still matters. Many traders assume time frame is completely irrelevant because Renko bricks form from price movement instead of time. That's only partially true. In TradingView, Renko charts are still built from underlying time frame data. That means a chart built from 5-minute data can behave differently than a chart built from daily data. This doesn't mean time frame is more important than brick size. In fact, I think brick size is usually the primary decision. The time frame still influences how the chart is constructed and how much detail gets fed into the Renko engine. When I'm testing longer-term investing ideas, I often start with daily data. For swing trading, I may use hourly or 4-hour data. For shorter-term experiments, I may drop down to lower time frames. The right answer depends on what you're trying to achieve. Whenever someone asks me where to start, I try to keep things simple. I would rather begin with a clean setup and then make adjustments later. For most beginners, I would start with a fixed brick size. I'd leave Wicks turned off. I'd use a time frame that matches the style of trading I'm testing. And I'd avoid loading the chart with a dozen indicators. One trend-following indicator is usually enough in the beginning. Most importantly, I would backtest everything. A setup that looks amazing on a screenshot isn't necessarily a setup that performs well over hundreds of trades. So if you take only one thing away from today's video, let it be this. Renko settings matter. Brick size is usually the biggest decision. ATR and fixed brick sizing each have strengths. Wicks add information but also complexity. And time frame still plays a role, even on price-based charts. The goal isn't finding the perfect setting. The goal is finding a setup that helps you make consistent decisions and that performs reasonably well when you test it. If you've found a Renko setup that works particularly well for you, let me know in the comments. That's a wrap on today's breakdown. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this helpful, give it a like and hit subscribe for more Renko trading insights. Don't forget the bell icon, and I'll see you in the next one.